What are the most hated states in the US and why? We asked this question in a survey and we received over 3,000 responses. We didn't give them any other information other than saying that they could leave a message if they wanted. And oh boy did they. Those got spicy. So we will look at the states, the votes they got for the most hated, and go over why people say they hate these states. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Alabama. Hey, why not hate on Alabama? Outside of Huntsville, pretty much the rest of this state kind of sucks, so I get this one completely. They do have some nice small towns, I'll give them that. And they know how to throw a party. These people love to have a good drink and a good time and watch some football. Alabama is often criticized for its extreme weather. They got tornadoes, they got summer heat, it gets brutal, humidity, all that good stuff. They're also criticized for their poor education and their subpar healthcare systems. Again, when it comes to healthcare, I say this all the time, it's normally a matter of access. Not that the doctors or the hospitals suck, it's usually they don't have enough of either. Until you get to Alabama. The state ranked low in healthcare quality and accessibility. The poor educational outcomes and underfunded schools affect the state's attractiveness to just about anyone. They also have a history and ongoing social issues, including racial tensions and civil rights challenges. Now, most of that, or I should say a lot of it, and when the spotlight really was on Alabama, was back in the 1950s and 60s. It's hard to shake that. Alabama also has one of the highest poverty rates in the nation. Their strong college football culture can be overwhelming for most, so you'll basically see a lot of Crimson Tide pride everywhere you go. One person said moving to Alabama is a sign to your loved ones that you've given up on life. Alabama got 67 votes for the most hated state. Number 9, West Virginia. Now this one I don't agree with. West Virginia has a lot of problems, but they also have a lot of wonderful things. One, they lead the country in poverty. It's like they're always jockeying for position with Mississippi for the absolute worst. But this is a state that is known for its economic struggles and a declining population. West Virginia is often viewed negatively due to the high poverty rates and the lack of economic opportunities. West Virginia is also a state that ranks really low when it comes to all the health metrics. I mean, they've got a really high rate of obesity and they've got a lot of chain smokers. On top of that, they were hit the absolute hardest when it came to the opioid crisis, with high rates of addiction and overdose deaths. There's a lot of families where grandparents are raising their kids because their parents are in rehab or in jail or whatever because of opioids. One person said, great people to get to know in West Virginia. Stay out of the hollers and never trust West Virginia government, from dog catcher to governor. West Virginia got 69 votes. Number 8, Kentucky. Yep, the bluegrass state makes it in at number 8. And, I don't think, in my opinion at least, there's not much to hate about Kentucky. They just kind of stay out of the way, in my opinion. But at least 73 people said that ain't it. Kentucky faces criticism for its high poverty rates, poor health care, and education system that kind of sucks until you get to the college level, and they got some pretty serious colleges. The state's strong association with certain cultural stereotypes and its economic struggles also contribute to a low ranking in favorability, meaning people don't want to live there. Again, this is another state that has high rates of obesity and smoke-related diseases. Kentucky is one of the states that have the lowest educational attainment, meaning not a lot of people get out of high school with a piece of paper, and that's because a lot of their schools are underfunded. I'm sure they have some wonderful teachers and all that, it's just the government is dropping the ball and not funding these schools. One man said, I think he got this wrong, but he said, this guy's a mess. I lived my first 33 years in Kentucky, and I've heard every date my cousin joke out there. These jokes aren't far from the reality of Kentucky. Kentucky got 73 votes. Number 7, Michigan. Michigan really gets a bad reputation for Detroit and Flint and the failing, or at least the exit of the auto industry there. And yes, don't bother telling me there are still auto manufacturing jobs in Michigan, just nothing like it was in the heyday of the 1960s, 70s, and even into the 80s a little bit. Some of those jobs are coming back, and Detroit is getting better, but people still have that image of this state in their head. A lot of the people that left comments said a lot about the weather, and the weather was just dragging them down. It's a very cold state, and their winters can be brutal. In the summer, you're just covered with mosquitoes. That's how it is in Michigan. They got too much water, and when the heat comes out, so do mosquitoes. But cities like Detroit have large areas of abandoned buildings and the infrastructure is in disrepair, and that's the images people see of this state. And then, of course, we could go on for an hour on the Flint water crisis, but we've talked about that at length, just like everyone else has on the internet. One person said, "Someday Michigan will be great again." Right now, it's far from it, and I'll probably have to live to 150 years old to actually see this happen. Michigan got 88 votes. Number 6, Texas. This one surprised me. There's people out there that hate Texas. I know a couple people that have moved to Texas from California. They hate it, but they're there for work and they really can't leave without having to find another job. So why do people hate Texas? Texas is often criticized for its extreme weather, especially the scorching heat, and its bold and sometimes brash cultural attitudes. Texas is prone to hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods, which can cause significant damage and disruption, which makes a lot of people dislike living there. Now, is that Texas's fault? No. I mean, every place gets its own weather, but sometimes people that move there for a while and they get a couple too many summers under their belt in Texas and maybe see a hurricane or two, they start to hate the state and leave. The state's political climate and issues with healthcare and the education system also plays a role in its unpopularity. Now, that being said, Texas is still a very popular state. This is just the opinion of some people. One opinion said, "It didn't used to suck. The politics are toxic in this state, and I can't stand talking to anyone. I moved to New Mexico for a better life, free of people talking about politics like it means something or it's real." It's pretty heavy. 154 people said they hated Texas. Number 5, Florida. When one of the most notable things that your state has to offer is stories about Florida man, you gotta expect a little eye rolling. There's other things, though, that make people hate living in Florida or just hate the state. Despite being a popular vacation spot, Florida is disliked for its humid, hurricane-prone weather, political controversies, and high crime rate in certain areas. The state's unique and sometimes bizarre stories also add to its negative reputation. Some parts of Florida have higher crime rates, which can deter potential residents, or they leave because of the crime rate. The state is often at the center of national political controversies, which really divide the state. But one of the major turnoffs is the overcrowded tourist destinations, which in turn impact the quality of life for its residents. One person said about Florida, "We need new people running this state. I don't care what party they're from. Hell, I'd be happy with a bag of potato chip as I'd be happy with a bag of potato chips as governor." 166 people voted Florida the most hated state. Number 4, California. First off, I know a lot of you were really expecting it to be number 1. You know, people are flooding out, you hear all the political stories, but you've got to remember, there's a lot to like about California. Longtime residents who aren't leaving, they will say, yeah, it's expensive, but it's worth it. Beautiful weather, great beaches, always something to do. But the current state of the state, like the homeless situation, cost of living, housing prices through the roof, that kind of overshadows all the good to outsiders. To people that live in California, they know it's a pretty good state to live in, if you can afford it. While many are drawn to California for its weather and opportunities, it's also hated for its high cost of living, overcrowded, and frequent natural disasters like wildfires and earthquakes. I know a girl that lost her new house like 4 years ago up in the Bay Area from some fire they had there. The state's politics and lifestyle can also be polarizing, to say the least. And let's not forget the major cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco that are infamous for their traffic jams and long commutes. That is one reason I hate California. I'll never live there again, and my biggest problem is the traffic. Sure, I could move to a rural place, but yeah, I want to live by the beach if I'm going to live there. One person said about California, "I left the entire state of California because of what they let happen to San Francisco. This is one of the most beautiful cities we have in this country, maybe on the continent, and now you look at it, it makes you want to cry." 187 people voted that they hate California the most. Number 3, New York. New York's problems all center around New York City. It's a big state, but if you talk to anyone or you read anything or you do any survey, you start to realize that almost everything that people are responding to is something to do with New York City. But despite the vibrant culture and economic opportunities, New York is often disliked for its high cost of living, rude residents, and intense traffic. New York City is known for its overcrowded public transportation and streets, which can be overwhelming, especially if you're not from a city. The state's reputation for having some of the worst drivers and the highest taxes contribute to its low popularity. Beyond housing, the cost of everyday items and services is significantly higher than many other states, actually most states. And most of that, again, has to do with New York City. Now, one other thing to keep in mind about New York is they have one of the highest state debts in the country. This affects public services and infrastructure along with maintenance. One person said, New York City drags us down. The entire state is not New York City, and most people don't understand that. If it wasn't for New York City, New York would fit right in with New England. 199 people voted for New York. Number 2, New Jersey. New Jersey is known for its high cost of living, dense traffic, and industrial areas that basically pollute everything. New Jersey is often criticized for its brash residents and pollution levels. It has also been dubbed the armpit of America due to these factors. The state's dense population and proximity to major cities like New York and Philadelphia lead to severe traffic congestion, especially on the New Jersey Turnpike. I would say the biggest reason a lot of people hate New Jersey is the people, and it's the way they communicate, and they're not terribly rude. I mean, they're very upfront and very brash. Yeah, like I said earlier, that describes them perfectly. And they wave their hands a lot when they talk, and they get a little too close. I watched this linguist guy that he studied communications and all this, and he gave a speech, and that's what he said. That's what's going on in New Jersey. That's their culture. That's the way they are. It's watered down a little bit over the years, but that's still kind of their thing. One person said the best thing to see in New Jersey is D's nuts. Anytime I say anything about New Jersey, someone leaves me an email or they say that on a survey. I don't know what's going on with New Jersey. They're a mess. 221 people voted for New Jersey. All right, before we get to number 1, our question of the day. In your opinion, with no other details, how much is too much for a house? And what state are you from, or where do you live? Don't want your address. I don't even want your city. Just what state are you in? All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Illinois. There's a lot going on in Illinois, and this one could take a while to unpack. But a lot of it, again, like New York City does to New York, Chicago does to Illinois. But the funny thing is, Chicago's not even their most dangerous city. There's other things that drive people crazy about Illinois. Illinois tops the list primarily due to its high taxes, political corruption, and significant population decline. People are flooding out of Illinois. Many residents and outsiders view it as an undesirable place to live due to these economic issues. Especially in cities like Chicago, the crime rate is notably high, contributing to the state's negative perception. Illinois has faced significant budget crises and pension liabilities, leading to financial instability that affects public services and infrastructure. They also have really harsh winters, which nobody ever talks about. Just look up Chicago, snow, see how thick it gets. They also have hot, humid summers, which can be uncomfortable for many people. Outside of Chicago, it's an affordable state to live as far as real estate goes, but their taxes are always high and the cost of living overall is just expensive here. It's not how it's supposed to be in a Midwest state. That's why people stay in the Midwest. That's why people move to the Midwest, because it's cheap. And if that's too expensive, you head to the South. One person said, I hate Illinois. I've lived in Chicago for 3 years and had my car broken into 4 times. Last week, they took the whole car for a change. 277 people voted for Illinois. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you'll probably enjoy one of the 2 videos being shown to you right now. Give them a look. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.